The Golden Child. Nathan Cross wasn't just a basketball player. He was a symbol of hope for an entire community. Born to a single mother in a gritty urban neighborhood, Nathan's future seemed written in hardship. But he had other plans. From the moment he picked up a basketball at the local youth center, his natural talent and determination were evident. By the time he was in high school, Nathan was a prodigy, outscoring seasoned players and leading his team to state championships. Scouts from prestigious colleges circled like hawks. He eventually chose Greenridge University, a decision driven by their stellar sports program, and the chance to stay close to his mother, Lena Cross. She had sacrificed everything, working 2 jobs and skipping meals, to ensure her son could chase his dreams. Nathan never forgot that, at least not at first. Fame's first bite. Greenridge turned Nathan into a household name. By his sophomore year, he was dominating college basketball and receiving accolades from every corner of the sports world. His charisma off the court didn't hurt either. Nathan was a media darling, gracious, articulate, and handsome. Endorsement deals poured in even before he declared for the NBA draft. But fame brought its challenges. Nathan's once close relationship with his mother began to strain under the weight of his new lifestyle. The late-night parties, the endless parade of admirers, and the pressure to maintain his image started to consume him. Despite his mother's warnings to stay grounded, Nathan began to believe in his own myth. Enter Amelia Harper. Amelia Harper wasn't the kind of woman Nathan typically pursued. A brilliant law student at Greenridge Law School, Amelia was focused on her dream of becoming a civil rights attorney. She had little time for distractions, least of all flashy athletes who, in her experience, treated relationships like games. But when Nathan visited her campus for a charity event promoting education in underserved communities, their paths crossed. Amelia was volunteering at the event, managing a booth about access to legal aid. Nathan approached, drawn by her confidence and sharp wit. He wasn't used to being challenged, but Amelia didn't fall for his charm as easily as others had. Intrigued by her resistance, Nathan pursued her with a determination he usually reserved for the court. Over time, Amelia saw a side of Nathan the media rarely captured, a young man grappling with the pressures of fame and the weight of expectation. They began dating quietly, their relationship marked by late-night conversations about their dreams and fears. For a while, Amelia thought she might be the grounding influence Nathan needed. The cracks began to show. As their relationship deepened, Amelia started to notice unsettling patterns in Nathan's behavior. He was intensely protective of his image, often insisting on secrecy about their relationship. "It's not that I'm ashamed of you," he explained one night. "It's just people talk. I don't want the media twisting things." At first, Amelia understood. She'd seen how tabloids could distort the truth. But over time, Nathan's obsession with control extended beyond his public persona. He became moody, sometimes snapping at her for minor things. He hated when she went out with friends, claiming he couldn't trust others around her. Amelia began to wonder if Nathan's charm masked something darker. The night that changed everything. One crisp autumn evening, Nathan invited Amelia to his penthouse to celebrate his latest endorsement deal. The evening started beautifully. Dinner, laughter, and a breathtaking view of the city skyline. But as the night wore on, and the champagne flowed, Nathan's mood shifted. "I've been thinking," he said, his tone serious. "Maybe you should consider taking a step back from school. I mean, with the baby coming, you won't have time for all that." Amelia froze, her fork hovering midair. "What are you talking about? I'm not pregnant." Nathan's eyes widened in panic before he masked it with a laugh. "Oh, right. I guess I'm just thinking ahead. You know, in case that ever happens." The conversation left Amelia unsettled. She wasn't sure what unnerved her more. Nathan's assumption that she'd abandon her ambitions for him, or the strange intensity in his eyes when he mentioned a hypothetical pregnancy. An unexpected turn. 2 months later, Amelia found herself sitting in her tiny apartment bathroom, staring at a positive pregnancy test. Her heart raced. This wasn't part of her plan. She had just started an internship with a prestigious law firm and was months away from finishing her degree. Her first instinct was to tell Nathan, but she hesitated. Lately, his behavior had become even more erratic. He'd stopped attending practices, citing personal reasons, and rumors swirled about his involvement in shady dealings off the court. Amelia wondered if Nathan was ready, or even capable, of being a father. Still, she believed he deserved to know. That evening, she met him at a trendy downtown restaurant, choosing a public place in case he reacted poorly. As she nervously broke the news, Nathan's face remained unreadable. For a moment, Amelia thought he might surprise her with support. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, his expression cold. "This isn't good, Amelia. You know what this means for my career, right? You need to handle this." Amelia's stomach churned. "Handle this? What are you saying, Nathan?" "I'm saying it's not the right time. You're smart. You know what to do." Tears stung her eyes as she realized what he was asking. "I'm keeping the baby, Nathan. You don't have to be involved if you don't want to, but I want." "You're not hearing me," Nathan interrupted, his voice low but menacing. "This isn't just about me. It's about us. You don't want to ruin your future either, do you?" Amelia stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I won't let you dictate my life, Nathan. You may be a star, but you don't own me." As she walked away, Nathan's voice followed her, colder than ever. "You'll regret this, Amelia." A shift in the shadows. Over the next few weeks, Amelia tried to distance herself from Nathan. She focused on her studies and sought support from her best friend, Leela, who offered to help her through the pregnancy. But Nathan wasn't the type to let go easily. He began showing up unannounced, leaving expensive gifts at her door and sending cryptic messages. "I'm trying to protect you." One text read, "You don't know what you're getting into." One night, Leela caught sight of a black SUV parked outside Amelia's apartment. When they approached, the car sped away. Amelia brushed it off as a coincidence, but deep down, she felt a growing unease. Unbeknownst to her, Nathan had enlisted Victor Locke and Darius Kane to keep an eye on her. In his twisted logic, he believed he was protecting his interests, but Victor and Darius had their own ideas about how to handle the situation, and they didn't involve Nathan's approval. The stage was set for a tragedy that would unravel all their lives. The breaking point. A world of secrets. Amelia Harper's resolve grew stronger with each passing day. Though the pregnancy wasn't part of her plan, she felt an unshakable bond with the life growing inside her. She refused to let Nathan Cross dictate her future, but she couldn't ignore the subtle ways his influence loomed over her. The gifts kept arriving: luxury baby cribs, designer maternity wear, even a handwritten note apologizing for his earlier reaction. "I overreacted," the note read. "I just want what's best for all of us. Let me make it right." But Amelia wasn't swayed. She knew Nathan's charm was a weapon he wielded expertly, a mask for his darker impulses. What she didn't know was that Nathan wasn't operating alone. His manager, Victor Locke, had taken a keen interest in Amelia's situation, not out of concern but to protect Nathan's career and his own cut of the athlete's lucrative deals. Victor Locke, the puppet master. Victor Locke was a man who thrived on control. A master manipulator, he had built his career by shielding his clients from scandals and controversies, no matter the cost. To Victor, Amelia was more than just a personal problem for Nathan. She was a potential PR disaster waiting to happen. "She's a liability," Victor told Nathan during one of their late-night meetings. They sat in Nathan's penthouse, the city lights glittering below them. "You don't need this kind of distraction. The sponsors don't need it either." Nathan rubbed his temples. "I've tried to reason with her, but she's stubborn. She won't listen." Victor leaned forward, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "Then stop reasoning with her. You need to show her you're serious." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you have options. You don't have to handle this alone." Nathan hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. But Victor's words burrowed deep. The seed of a plan was planted. The friend who stayed silent, Amelia's best friend, Leela, began noticing strange things. Amelia's phone would ring at odd hours, and she'd ignore the calls, her face pale. Once, Leela found an unmarked envelope on Amelia's kitchen counter. Inside were blurry photos of Amelia walking to her law school, shopping at the market, and sitting on a park bench. "Who sent these?" Leela asked, her voice trembling. Amelia shrugged it off, but Leela could see the fear in her eyes. "Probably some tabloid digging for a story about Nathan. It's nothing." But Leela wasn't convinced. She started keeping her own quiet watch over Amelia, sensing that something more sinister was at play. Nathan's descent. For Nathan, the stress of the situation began to take a toll. His performance on the court suffered, and whispers of his decline spread through the media. His teammates noticed his uncharacteristic outbursts during practice, his short temper, and his growing detachment. One evening, after a particularly grueling game, Nathan found himself sitting alone in the locker room. The cheers of the crowd had faded, and the echoes of his teammates' laughter felt distant. He stared at his reflection in the mirror, a man who seemingly had everything but felt like he was losing control. Victor's words played on repeat in his mind. "You have options." The enforcer, Darius Kane. Enter Darius Kane, Nathan's childhood friend and longtime confidant. Darius had a complicated past, a mix of petty crime, underground gambling, and a reputation for being the guy who could fix problems. He had always been loyal to Nathan, partly out of gratitude, and partly because Nathan's fame brought him his own kind of power. Victor approached Darius with a proposition. "Nathan needs your help. It's a sensitive matter." "What kind of matter?" Darius asked, his voice laced with suspicion. "Let's just say there's someone in his life causing complications. You've always been good at making complications go away." Darius smirked, but there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "Nathan's a good guy. He doesn't do this kind of thing." Victor leaned closer. "He's desperate. And when people are desperate, they do what they have to." Reluctantly, Darius agreed to help, but he had no idea how far Victor planned to push the situation. Amelia's growing fear. Amelia's life became a maze of unease. She started to notice shadows following her when she walked home from the library, the feeling of being watched wherever she went. Once, while driving to a prenatal appointment, her car was followed by a sleek black SUV that seemed to mimic her every turn. At home, her mailbox began to fill with anonymous letters. Some were benign, quotes about life and love, but others carried a more menacing tone. One read, "Do you know what happens to people who cross the wrong path?" Amelia filed a police report, but without concrete evidence, there was little they could do. "Do you have anyone in your life who might want to harm you?" the officer asked. Amelia thought of Nathan, but shook her head. "No, I don't think so." The plan takes shape. Victor and Darius began to sketch out their plan. Initially, it was simple: intimidate Amelia into compliance. But Victor, ever the strategist, decided intimidation wasn't enough. "We need her out of the picture," he told Darius one night. "Permanently." Darius hesitated. "That's not what Nathan wanted." Victor laughed darkly. "Nathan doesn't know what he wants. That's why we're here, to make the hard decisions." They planned meticulously, choosing a remote stretch of road near the city outskirts as the site for their ambush. Darius would follow Amelia, forcing her car off the road, while Victor ensured Nathan had an airtight alibi. Nathan's final warning. On the night before the plan was set to unfold, Nathan met Amelia one last time. He invited her to dinner under the guise of reconciliation, but his true intention was to give her one final chance to comply with his wishes. Amelia arrived at the upscale restaurant, her guard up but willing to hear him out. Nathan was uncharacteristically quiet throughout the meal, his usual charm replaced by a tense, almost robotic demeanor. "Amelia," he said finally, I need you to think about the future. Not just yours, but mine. You don't know the kinds of people who get involved when things go public. It's not safe. For you or the baby." Amelia narrowed her eyes. "Is that a threat, Nathan?" "It's a warning," he replied, his voice low. "You're making this harder than it has to be." She stood, her voice shaking with anger. "You can't scare me into doing what you want. I'm not one of your fans or your sponsors. I'm the mother of your child, and I won't let you control me." As she walked away, Nathan felt the weight of what was about to happen. For a brief moment, he considered calling it off, but the pressure of Victor's words, Darius's involvement, and his own fear of losing everything silenced the part of him that wanted to do the right thing. The final hours. Amelia spent the evening with Leela, discussing baby names and plans for the future. She was determined to focus on the positive, despite the unease that lingered in the back of her mind. Lila noticed Amelia checking her locks multiple times before they settled in for the night, but she didn't comment. Meanwhile, Nathan sat in his penthouse, staring out at the city lights. His phone buzzed with a message from Victor. "It's done tomorrow." Nathan didn't reply. He couldn't bring himself to. In the shadows, Victor and Darius finalized their preparations. The black SUV was ready, the route was planned, and Amelia's routine had been tracked to the minute. All that was left was to execute the plan. The clock ticked down to the moment that would change everything. For Amelia, for Nathan, and for the innocent life caught in the middle. The unthinkable. A sense of unease. Amelia Harper awoke the next morning with an overwhelming sense of dread. It was a feeling she couldn't shake, like a storm cloud hovering just out of sight. Lila noticed Amelia's quiet demeanor over breakfast and pressed her to talk about it, but Amelia brushed her concerns aside. "I'm just tired," Amelia said, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. "It's probably nothing." But it wasn't nothing. The black SUV from the previous day had returned, parked a few houses down from Leila's apartment. Inside, Darius Kane sat behind the wheel, watching and waiting. Victor Locke had been clear. No room for error. Today was the day they would eliminate the problem once and for all. The routine. Victor and Darius had studied Amelia's daily routine with meticulous care. They knew she would be heading to a prenatal appointment at the downtown clinic that afternoon. The plan was simple: follow her car, force her off the road, and make it look like an accident. Victor's contact in the underworld, a seasoned criminal named Marcus "Red" Daniels, had provided the tools: a stolen vehicle, untraceable plates, and a contingency plan in case things went sideways. Red had a reputation for efficiency, and he made it clear that this job would be no different. "Just make sure your boy doesn't mess it up," Red warned Victor when they met to finalize the details. "Amateurs get sloppy." Victor reassured him. "Darius knows what he's doing." The drive. Amelia left for her appointment just after 1 p.m., her mind focused on the life she was preparing to bring into the world. She barely noticed the black SUV pulling out a few cars behind her as she merged onto the highway. Darius kept his distance at first, careful not to raise suspicion. He followed her through the city, past familiar landmarks, and onto the quiet suburban road leading to the clinic. His palms were sweaty, but his focus never wavered. He was determined to prove to Victor, and to himself, that he could handle this. As Amelia neared a deserted stretch of road bordered by dense woods, Darius accelerated. He closed the gap between their vehicles, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. This was the moment. The ambush. Darius sped past Amelia's car, swerving sharply in front of her. Startled, she hit the brakes, her tires screeching against the asphalt. Before she could react, the black SUV slammed into the side of her vehicle, forcing it off the road and into a shallow ditch. The impact was jarring. Amelia's car came to a halt, smoke billowing from the engine. Disoriented and trembling, she reached for her phone, but her hands were shaking too badly to dial. Suddenly, Darius emerged from the SUV, his face obscured by a black mask. He approached her car with purpose, a crowbar in hand. Amelia's eyes widened in terror as he shattered the driver's side window. "Please," she screamed, shielding her belly with her arms. "I'm pregnant. Don't do this." Darius hesitated, his resolve faltering for a split second. But Victor's voice echoed in his mind. "No loose ends." Before he could act further, a second car pulled up. A nondescript sedan with tinted windows. The driver's door opened, and Victor Locke stepped out, his expression cold and unreadable. "What are you doing?" Darius hissed, his voice low. This wasn't part of the plan. Victor ignored him, walking calmly toward the wrecked car. He peered inside, meeting Amelia's tear-filled gaze. "You should have listened," he said softly, almost regretfully. Victor pulled a handgun from inside his coat and aimed it at Amelia. She froze, her mind racing. Then, without warning, a loud crash came from the woods. An unlikely witness. The commotion startled all three of them. From the trees emerged a young man with a camera slung around his neck, a nature photographer who had been scouting the area for wildlife. His name was Jess Clark, and he had unknowingly wandered into a life-or-death situation. "What the hell is going on here?" Jess demanded, raising his phone to record the scene. Victor cursed under his breath. "Darius, take care of him." But Darius didn't move. His hesitation was palpable. The photographer's sudden appearance had thrown the entire plan into chaos. Victor stepped toward Jesse, raising the gun. "No," Amelia shouted, finding her voice. "Run." Jesse bolted back into the woods, his phone still recording. Victor fired a shot, but it missed, hitting a tree instead. Furious, Victor turned back to Darius. "This is your mess now," he snarled. "Finish it." Victor stormed back to the sedan, leaving Darius frozen in place. As the sedan disappeared down the road, Darius found himself alone with Amelia. Her terrified eyes pleaded with him. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "Please. You're better than this." The turning point. Darius stood motionless, the crowbar still in his hand. Something about Amelia's words cut through his facade. He thought about his own sister, a single mother struggling to raise her kids in their old neighborhood. He thought about all the times Nathan had promised to take care of him, but never truly delivered. In that moment, Darius made a choice. "Get out of here," he said, his voice trembling. Amelia didn't hesitate. She fumbled with her seatbelt, kicked open the passenger door, and scrambled out of the car. Clutching her belly, she began to run toward the main road. Darius watched her go, his mind racing. He knew there would be consequences, but for the first time in years, he felt like he was doing the right thing. The aftermath. Victor Siddons sped down the highway, his mind already working on damage control. He would spin the situation, discredit Amelia, and ensure Nathan's name stayed clean. As far as he was concerned, this was just another bump in the road. But Jess Clark's footage told a different story. By the time Victor realized the photographer had captured everything, the crash, the confrontation, even Victor's face, it was too late. The video had already been uploaded to social media, spreading like wildfire. Back at the clinic, Amelia was treated for minor injuries. She gave a full statement to the police, recounting every detail of the attack. When she mentioned Nathan's name, the officers exchanged knowing glances. "We'll look into it," one of them assured her. Nathan's reaction. Nathan Cross was in the middle of a practice session when he got the call from Victor. His blood ran cold as Victor explained what had happened and what hadn't. "You told me this would be clean," Nathan snapped, his voice shaking. "You said I wouldn't have to worry about anything." "I handled it," Victor replied curtly. "Just keep your mouth shut." But Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that his carefully constructed life was about to crumble. For the first time, he began to wonder if Victor's loyalty came with a price he wasn't willing to pay. Amelia's resolve. As Amelia recovered, her fear turned to determination. She knew the battle wasn't over, but she also knew she had allies now. Layla, Jesse, and even the law enforcement officials who were beginning to piece together the web of lies surrounding Nathan and Victor. For the first time in months, Amelia felt a glimmer of hope. She wasn't just fighting for her life anymore. She was fighting for her child, for justice, and for the truth to come to light. But she had no idea just how far Nathan and Victor would go to silence her, or how close she was to uncovering the secrets that could destroy them all. This expanded and unique continuation builds the tension, introduces an unexpected witness, and lays the groundwork for a high-stakes conflict in the next installment. Let me know if you'd like me to continue. A Fragile Truth. The fallout begins. The fallout from the botched attack began to ripple outward almost immediately. The viral video shot by Jess Clark had reached millions of viewers by the end of the day. The footage, blurry but damning, showed Victor Locke's face, the black SUV, and the wrecked car with Amelia inside. While the video didn't capture Nathan Cross explicitly, his connection to Victor raised immediate suspicions. News outlets picked up the story, spinning headlines about the attack on the pregnant woman linked to the famed basketball star. Nathan's PR team scrambled to control the narrative, issuing vague statements about his innocence and distancing him from Victor's actions. Nathan's phone buzzed nonstop as reporters, sponsors, and even former teammates demanded answers. For the first time in his career, Nathan felt like the walls were closing in. But he wasn't prepared for what came next. Darius's crisis. Darius Kane had fled the scene after letting Amelia go. Driving aimlessly through the city, he wrestled with the consequences of his actions. His loyalty to Nathan had always been unshakable, but Victor's cold-bloodedness had crossed a line even Darius couldn't ignore. He parked the SUV in a quiet alley, his hands gripping the wheel. His mind replayed Amelia's desperate plea. "You don't have to do this. Please." Darius knew he was in too deep. If he turned on Victor, he'd become a target himself. But if he stayed silent, he risked going down with him. He needed a plan, and fast. Amelia's determination. At the clinic, Amelia Harper clung to her resolve. Though shaken and bruised, she refused to let fear dictate her next steps. After giving her statement to the police, she reached out to Leela, who rushed to her side. "You can't go back to your apartment," Leela said firmly. "It's not safe." Amelia nodded, knowing Leela was right. She agreed to stay at Layla's place for the time being, but she also knew she couldn't hide forever. She needed to take control of the situation. With Layla's help, Amelia began documenting everything she knew about Nathan, Victor, and the attack. She compiled text messages, emails, and even the threatening letters she'd received. Her goal was clear: expose the truth and ensure her baby's safety. The photographer's gamble. Jess Clark had no idea his video would cause such a stir. The amateur photographer had posted the footage online simply to alert the authorities, but the sheer volume of attention it received overwhelmed him. Journalists camped outside his home, while internet sleuths dissected every frame of the video. One evening, Jess received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was calm but menacing. "You've caused a lot of trouble, Mr. Clark. I suggest you think carefully about your next move." Jess's heart raced as the line went dead. Though terrified, he refused to back down. He contacted a lawyer and handed over the original video file to ensure its authenticity. Jesse knew he was now part of something much bigger and far more dangerous than he ever anticipated. Victor's calculations. Victor Locke was livid. The plan had been simple, yet Darius's hesitation and the photographer's interference had turned it into a public spectacle. He paced his office, barking orders to his legal team and spinning damage control strategies. "We deny everything," Victor instructed. Nathan had no knowledge of the situation. As for the video, we'll discredit it, claim it's doctored or staged. But deep down, Victor knew the video was only part of the problem. Amelia was still alive, and her testimony posed an even greater threat. He needed to silence her before she could take the stand, or worse, go public. Victor reached out to Red Daniels again, this time with a more desperate proposition. I need this handled. No mistakes. Red's laughter crackled through the phone. You're running out of people who'll clean up your messes, Locke. But if the price is right, I'll consider it. Victor's jaw tightened. He had never felt this cornered before, and the realization stung. Nathan's empire, and his own, was crumbling faster than he could repair it. Nathan's struggle. Nathan Cross spent the next few days in a haze of anxiety. His agent had canceled his public appearances, and his sponsors had put their contracts on hold. Even his closest teammates began to distance themselves, wary of being associated with the controversy. Sitting in his penthouse, Nathan replayed the events that led to this moment. He thought about his mother, Lena, and the sacrifices she made to get him here. How disappointed she would be if she knew the truth. When his phone rang, Nathan hesitated before answering. It was Victor. Everything's under control, Victor said, though his tone betrayed otherwise. Just stick to the story. You knew nothing. You weren't involved. Nathan wanted to believe him, but the weight of his guilt was too heavy. He had let Victor take over his life, and now he was paying the price. The police close in. Detective Serena Holt had been assigned to Amelia's case. A seasoned investigator with a sharp intuition, Holt immediately saw the connections between the attack, Victor Locke, and Nathan Cross. She wasn't easily swayed by celebrity status or PR spin, and the video evidence gave her a solid starting point. Holt brought in Darius Kane for questioning. Initially tight-lipped, Darius finally cracked under the pressure. It wasn't supposed to go that far, he confessed. Victor pushed it. He trailed off, his head in his hands. Holt leaned forward, her voice firm. If you want any chance of saving yourself, you need to tell me everything. Reluctantly, Darius revealed the extent of Victor's involvement, implicating Nathan in the process. The confession gave Holt the leverage she needed to move forward with the case. A dangerous alliance. Amelia, unaware of Darius's confession, continued to prepare for the inevitable legal battle. But she knew she couldn't fight this alone. With Lila's encouragement, she reached out to Jess Clark. Your video saved my life, Amelia told him over the phone. I need your help. Jess agreed to meet, despite the risks. Together, they began strategizing how to use the footage and Amelia's evidence to build the case against Nathan and Victor. Their partnership was uneasy but necessary, a shared determination to uncover the truth. Victor's final play. Victor, sensing the noose tightening around him, decided to take drastic action. He arranged a meeting with Nathan, hoping to secure his loyalty one last time. You need to stand by me, Victor urged. We can spin this, but only if we're united. Nathan stared at him, his expression unreadable. For the first time, Nathan saw Victor for what he truly was, a manipulative puppet master who had exploited him for years. You've done enough, Nathan said coldly. I'm done. Victor's face darkened. You don't get to walk away from this, Nathan. Not after everything I've done for you. Nathan didn't respond. He simply walked away, leaving Victor to face the consequences alone. The turning tide. With Darius's testimony and Jess's footage, Detective Holt secured a warrant for Victor's arrest. The news broke the following morning, sending shockwaves through the media. Victor was apprehended at his office, his carefully constructed facade shattered. Nathan, though not yet charged, knew his time was running out. He faced a choice: cooperate with the authorities or risk losing everything. Amelia, meanwhile, prepared to step into the spotlight. She was no longer just a victim. She was a mother fighting for her child's future, and a woman determined to bring her attackers to justice. As the pieces began to fall into place, one question remained. How far would Nathan go to save himself? And would Amelia survive the storm still to come?